Hey everybody, welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Sam Rhee and myself, Coach David Syvertsen. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset.
Welcome back to the Herd Fit Podcast. I am Coach David Syvertsen here with my co-host, Dr. and Coach Sam Rhee. And for the second week in a row, we have our very special guest, Legends athlete, Amy Edelman, going to be competing in the women's 40 to 44 group. And that is, I guess we are airing this. This is starting in just a few days from now. And we're going to kind of go over the Legends background story just a little bit. All right, we did this last year, so we won't get too deep into it. But they sent us a movement list of what movements will be in this year's championships. And it is a lot shorter than what we saw last year. Last year, we got a movement list and it had about 75 movements in it, which basically said you might see these movements. Here are the standards for them. The movement list now is probably a quarter of the size of that. And I would guess that everything they sent us will be in this year's championships. There might be a surprise or two. They've done that every year, something like a new object or something like that. Like last year, we did lunges with the water bag over our head that was kind of swishing around on the last event. They did not release the workouts. We are not going to know the workouts until a couple of days before. So by the time this podcast comes out, we probably still will not know. We might find out on our travel day, which is Tuesday. But we want to go over the movement list and we're going to just kind of generate some discussion. So Amy, thanks for coming back.
Thanks. Thank you.
It's almost like you never left, huh?
I know.
So, all right, Legends. It is going to be in Cookeville, Tennessee at CrossFit Mayhem. And for those that live under a rock, that is Rich Froning's gym. And he is probably one of the, if not the biggest figures in CrossFit, especially the sport. He's definitely on the Mount Rushmore. It could be debated now who's the top dog, him or Matt Frazier, or I think it's Tia, to be honest with you. But if there's a Mount Rushmore, Rich Froning is on it. And he is now going to be entering the age 35 to 39 Masters group in next year's season. So in the next Open in February, he will be, and he's kind of hush-hush on whether or not he's actually going to pursue competing in that Masters group. He did say he's no longer going to be competing with a team, which he's been doing for years now. And if you know anything about Rich and how competitive it is, I think he will at some point make an appearance in that age group and he'll probably win. But part of me was thinking that Rich is a very intelligent businessman as well and an entrepreneur. And I think that he sees the sport of CrossFit is growing, but the master sport is going to continue to grow because a lot of us that started competing back in 2012, 2013, 2014, we were in our 20s. We're all now masters athletes and a lot have left the game for different reasons, but a lot of us are still in it. And I think you can call it weekend warriors. You could tell that we just can't get over it, but it's in our blood that we want to compete. And I think there's a lot of people like Amy and I that want to compete for as long as our bodies will allow. And Rich sees that. And I think that's a big reason why Legends partnered with them. Rich partnered with Legends. And why they're hosting this year's, in my opinion, the premier off-season CrossFit competition.
Yeah, I think that the fact that the 2022 Legends Championship presented by Mayhem Athlete was programmed by Rich shows what his commitment is to the Masters athlete. My guess is he will be competing next year as a Masters, and it's gotten bigger and bigger. You see all the names that used to be in the Open, in the games.
Yep.
Dan Bailey, James Hobart,
Awesome.
Sam Dancer. All these guys are now up on the Masters circuit. And I love watching these guys because they have maintained such a high level of fitness. These guys arguably maybe they can't compete with Medeiros, but they're right there. Like they're almost right there. And they're 10 years older than these guys, or 15 years older. So I love that. And I'm so interested to see how he programs these workouts because he said there were, he didn't agree with everything that the Legends guys wanted. And so there was a little bit of a give and take, he said, with these workouts. So I'm really interested to see what you guys have to face.
Yeah.
Especially since you've won it twice in your age division. Now this is your third time competing in Legends. You were the youngest the first year.
Yeah.
You were 1 year older. Now you're like sort of in the middle or maybe at the end of the pack of your group.
Yeah.
You're the youngest 40 to 44 year athlete. never competed at Legends before.
Nope.
So watching you guys, throw down at this is going to be so interesting. I can't imagine the kind of, I don't want to say pressure, but anticipation you guys have for this thing.
Yeah. What are your thoughts just a week and a half away?
Yeah. I mean, I think anxious to see what we're going to be doing because we have a movement list, but we're like, you sit there and you're like, so like, what if this is paired with this?
That's all we're going to be thinking about for
right. That's
week.
all you think about. And then it's like, it's just, I'm excited to see what he's going to do, what they will have programmed.
Yeah. He was on Savant's podcast a couple of weeks ago, and like he is programming with Bob Jennings and Joe Linton. I want to give those two a shout out. I have a lot of respect for those guys. They are kind of the founders of Legends, and they've been running it. They're so selfless. They do a kick-ass job every year, and it's a really hard job to do, especially with high-maintenance athletes.
Poor Joe's going to be getting my emails about apparel.
What sports?
What are we wearing? What size should I order?
Yeah.
Because right?
That's her, by the way, Joe. That's her.
That's me.
But even Rich said, he goes like, yeah, I think the volume's a little too high, but I'm like, oh boy.
Oh, God.
If he's calling the volume high.
Yeah.
And it was. Last year was very high volume. It was tough. A lot of knee flexion. So what?
How many workouts were last year?
There were, I believe it was 10 events, 9 workouts.
So it's the same.
It's kind of the same thing, I believe. Yeah, I think that they said. It's the same thing. So basically, we know that there's going to be workout. This is what's different this year in contrast to the past. It's a 4-day competition. So it seems like we're going to be doing the same amount of volume, but it's going to be spread out over 4 days instead of 3. So I think that might make things a little bit better. I'm very interested to see, before we get into the movement list, in the 2 years that I've done this, in Arizona, it was in a parking lot because of COVID. And in last year, it was in San Diego in a huge tent. The lanes, I basically, the rig was 20 lanes deep. And that was kind of like the way we lined up. Based on what I can see from CrossFit Mayhem on Instagram, I'm on their Instagram all the time. They don't have that kind of layout. Now, Rich is buddy with Rogue, so I'm sure they could put together whatever they want to. So maybe I'm wrong. I'm very curious to see how they're going to put together. But they have made notes in emails a few times that they've had to change workouts up just a little bit logistically, and I think that's part of what it is. So I'm trying to visualize what they could and could not do in their space. I try to project and plan as much as I can. Again, mentally prep. And all right, they probably will have this kind of workout. They probably will not have this kind of workout. And now that we have the movement list, we can get a little bit more in depth with speculation. So let's go. We'll dive right into the movement list. We won't go like one by one, but I think what we could do is we could talk about the machines first. They have the Assault Air Runner, the Concept 2 bike, the Concept 2 row, and the Concept 2 ski. So those are the 4 machines. Note, there is no air bike in there. There's no assault bike / Rogue Echo bike. Some people will be happy about that. I personally would have loved to have seen it. I'm sure you would have too.
Yeah, I think either one of the bikes. I'm not quite used to the Rogue bike, but I mean, either bike I like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I do think because Hinshaw is very involved with Mayhem, I have a feeling he's going to program. I think there's going to be an endurance event. Endurance for CrossFitters is probably anything more than 20 minutes, right? Like we did a mock weekend a few weeks ago. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later.
Yeah.
But we did a 5K, 4K ski. Just like single modality, there's your workout. And I think we could see something like that. I had her do Jerry yesterday, which is a 1 mile run, 2K row, 1 mile run, which I think would be an awesome fitness test for a competition. And in most local competitions, you can't do it because it's take too long and you need a lot of machines. Mayhem has as many machines as they want, right? Like if you've ever seen what they have on their Instagram with like the Train with Rich weekends, they have it all. And I have a feeling just because of the way how Hinshaw is involved in that plays with the Mayhem programming, which is the main sponsor of the event, I think we're going to see an endurance event on that Thursday that will involve a run or a run and one of those machines.
Yeah. And I hope they do. I think we had talked about it like last weekend, that initial workout, the first one when you go out there and your nerves and everything else, doing an endurance workout, I think is a lot more settling to your response system. Yeah. Like doing a fast, hard and go workout, it's like, it's a shock.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
And it's a bad feeling.
It is. Yeah. I think one whenever I compete, the worst feeling I have is after that first workout.
Yeah.
And you can do all the prep, the
Right.
mental prep, you can get a good warm up in.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like spiking the heart rate up that hard, that high,
Right.
that abruptly.
Yep.
And the past two legends, that right after that first event, you feel great after, like going into the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
It's like ripping a Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
But I would love for that first event to not be something that's 6 minutes sprint
Right.
as hard as you can go.
Yeah.
How have you guys been training for anticipating an endurance workout or a run row or run ski erg or something type of workout?
We've been doing a lot of zone 2 stuff. Like
Yeah.
we're working for 30, 40, 50 minutes. Like
Okay.
we've been doing pretty much at least one of those per week, sometimes two. And it's usually mixed with multiple machines, but there are times like where we are on one machine and we say, hey, example, like on a C2 bike, like 1,000 meters, 1,200, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, like go hard for the first half, soft for the second half, rest a minute or two, then go back at it, just so that you can get used to being at a machine for a long time. It's something a lot of CrossFitters don't do. Whether it's habit or just logistics of a class or bias of a programmer, but I do think there's a lot of fitness missing in athletes that don't stay on a machine or at a movement for 20 plus minutes.
What is the difference between running and an air runner? Like, how does that affect you as you run?
Amy?
So I had never really been on an air runner before. I had went to go like visit my dad somewhere, and there's one in his apartment gym. And I think you were like, oh, you should like jump on it. And I was like,
That thing's scary.
like I went on it and I tried to run. I'm like, I am going to fall on my face.
Yeah, that was
like,
the first time I ever did one. I felt like I was going to fall.
Yeah. So it was very awkward. And then when we started doing legends training, I was like, Dave, like I got to get on one of those things, because if that shows up, then I'm screwed because I will wipe out.
Yeah.
So luckily you've been so generous in letting me come into come and into your gym at home and use it. And I'm like, oh,
it's huge.
thank God.
Yeah. Fortunately, Sam and his wife, Susan, opened up their garage gym to us they have an air runner. And, it's not like it would be a mistake for us to go in there every other day and just pound the thing, right?
Yeah.
Because like that leads to overtraining injuries. But the fact that you can get some experience on it, like the first time we went in there, we said, hey, no max effort. Let's feel this thing out. Let's see how you feel tomorrow. Because I remember the first time I went on that thing, I went pretty hard and I got in my car right after and both of my calves cramped up the second I got in my car. And Amy right now said her hamstring sore from yesterday. It's just super tight. I love the air runner in that you feel like your muscles are working, your aerobic system is working, but you're not pounding your joints. I do think for someone older, and I probably don't have the best running technique in the world, so I pound the ground. You can hear me running 2 blocks away, right? Like those flat ass feet.
Yeah.
Breathing and hitting the pavement.
Do I have cement blocks on my feet?
Yeah. But like people don't believe me when I say this. Like, if I could run 3 days a week, I would, but it beats me up. And like the last time I ran, I think it's the best form of conditioning. Like if you want to get better conditioning, you need to run, but you don't want to get hurt. And I remember the last time I ran, it was a bison class with you, Sam. It was the 800-meter runs, the repeats, and my knee, it blew up. Yeah. It was swollen for like 8 days. I'm like, that's a sign. It's not worth it because it impeded my training. But on the air runner, it doesn't happen. Do I run as fast? No. Most people run a little slower on the air runner than they do on pavement.
10% maybe?
I would say 10%.
Yeah.
Nothing drastic, but enough for you to notice like, wow, I don't run like an 8:30 mile. What is that all about? So, but it's good experience to see like, all right, how did you feel after? That's part one. But also how do you push on that thing?
Right.
So we did a lot of different time domains and then different distance domains. And then we mixed it with a bike one time. We mixed it with a row one time. And it's important for her to know that, or anyone to know that if you need to push off that thing, like, and hey, I need to go catch someone, you need to just move yourself up a little bit on the air runner so you get that down slope, but like be ready. That thing will move. It's
going to go.
Yeah. Like you will go from your 8-minute mile pace to 4:30.
Yeah.
And it's hard to slow down sometimes. It's a little scary.
Yeah. It's fast. It's like the change is so quick.
Yeah. And like Amy's so good on the machines, like the C2, the row, the ski, because she's on them 3 days a week. And it's been that way for a long time. And her build naturally allowed, like one of her best events was the row burpee in the qualifier. And that was, aerobic system, but it was also just, hey, I'm really good at rowing. And I think it was really important for her to get on that air runner. Anyone that's competing at Legends, if you can get on one, I would play around with different distances, different times. You don't have to blow yourself up. Take long rests in between. But I think it would help you out a lot.
It's a lot of posterior chain, isn't it? In terms of like your glutes, hamstrings, and calves, more so than maybe just running on pavement.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely felt my like hamstrings immediately after.
Because of that push
that I
off.
normally don't feel. Normally when I run like on the pavement, I'm like, oh, back hurt, knee hurts.
Mm-hmm.
But that it wasn't like an joint ache. It was muscle. Yeah.
Now, C2 erg. I did it last week when I was dropping in at a box, and I didn't realize how quad heavy I thought that felt afterwards. Yeah. Like it was like so much quad.
It is.
Yeah.
And I mean, did you guys do a lot of C2 bike erg training before this?
I would say once a week we're on that thing.
Yeah.
Amy, what are your thoughts on
Yeah. I mean, I like it. I don't know if I like it better than the Airdyne or which one, but it's a nice
It's
change.
smooth.
It's smooth. Yes, that's what it is. Yeah.
What are your tricks or tips to perform on that thing? Because I couldn't really feel like I could find a good. I mean, my comfortable pace felt too slow. But then when I tried to push it, I couldn't maintain that for very long.
Yeah.
So how do you like?
I think it's the same. Like it's such a fine line of being comfort and being like, I might blow up on this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't maintain my split on the C2 bike that I can on the row. So I just know that I know myself on the rower very well. The C2 bike, I just try to taper it back 10 seconds, I'd say. One thing I do, I'm not a biker. I don't know if this makes sense. I don't know if Hinshaw is going to get mad at me for saying this. That does not make scientific sense. I do try to use my front part of my foot on some of the, when my quads start to get really tired, I try to activate and push off my hamstrings and glutes a little bit more. And I could feel a different activation, and it does help me. I do feel like when I start going to my hamstrings, it's like, okay, emergency. And like, that's when the heart rate really starts to jump up. But as long as like big Hinshaw thing, if I can control my breathing, like whether it's a cadence or like, hey, I'm not like hyperventilating, I will keep pushing. But if I start to feel that lack of control, that's when I'll slow down. I'll deal with the leg pain, like that muscle fatigue. But it's the breathing for me that if you can't get off that thing and be able to function, then I think that's your sign. So let's get into some of the more specific gymnastic movements. All right. Bar muscle ups for men's 35 to 59 and women's 35 to 49. Okay. Chest, it's going to be chest bar pulls for men 60 plus and then women's 50 plus. 50 to 64. And then chin over bar pull-ups for women's 65 plus. So they're making the gymnastics a little simpler for older age groups. Some will be very angry about that. Some will be very happy about that. For Amy and I, it looks like it's going to be bar muscle-ups only. We were asking, does that mean there will be no chest bar?
Right. That's what I'm not sure of.
We're not sure. I don't think they really care if we're sure or not either.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, like prepare for both.
Yeah.
In my head, I'm prepping for muscle ups, not chest bar. So whatever workout it's going to be paired with, whether it's one or two movements or it's at the end of a workout where you have to kind of, get some reps done under a lot of duress, I think it will just be the muscle up for us.
Is that what you prefer?
I prefer, yes, because I feel like my long arms, I got long arms too for my height. I'm slower competitively cycling chest bar on butterfly than I am muscle ups.
Yeah.
Where muscle ups, I feel like I have a more, I can even the playing field a little bit more.
In terms of bar muscle ups, I know just judging chest to bar, I hate judging chest to bar. Like just looking to see whether that they're butterflying and touching. That doesn't mean that they won't have those movements, but for simplicity's sake, just why not, instead of doing, say, 5 more chest to bar, like just program more bar muscle ups.
Right.
You guys are elite athletes. Like, why would we want to make you do chest to bar?
bar muscle ups.
I mean, when
you probably prefer muscle ups, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, you've programmed just for classes, large sets, like ginormous sets
30.
Where I'm like, F this. I'm doing my normal 3 to 4 at a time and then dropping, and then, that's really about it. But I assume that if you can cycle large numbers of muscle ups, you're probably going to be at a big advantage. It seems like every comp, the ones who can sort of hang on to the bar for stuff like that, it makes a big difference.
It does.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What kind of numbers do you think you might see in terms of volume for that sort of thing?
I mean, I could see typically total volume is around 30.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be 30 in a row. I could see it being one of two things. I could see it being something like building up like a chipper and then have to do them at the end of a workout where you don't have to make them do that many. You know, like 10 muscle ups after a huge long workout are very hard. Or you make it, you know, you pair it with a couplet and you just say, hey, 5 at a time, AMRAP or 6 rounds for time, something like that. So I think it'd be one of those two.
Well, they had that in the qualifier, right?
Yeah, with the shuttle runs,
the
right?
shuttle run, clean and jerk.
And just a few at a time.
And then it was what, 5, 7?
I think it was 5.
5.
And I think you have to think about this too. And I've seen this at competitions. This happened a little bit last year in their first event with the overhead squats, ring muscle ups. You don't want to have a competition, especially that's broadcast, with a lot of people just standing around.
Right.
Like, I think aesthetically it's a bad look.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember watching the broadcast last year, and they had that ring muscle up workout where the muscle up rep scheme went 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And it started off decent, but then, you know, with a lot of age groups, especially the older ones, when you got to that set of 8 and 10, I think the volume was the same. But even in my group, you just had guys doing 1 or 2 at a time.
Yeah.
And, you know, is that maybe the athletes aren't good enough? Sure, you can always say that. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to broadcast this, you're using the broadcast to market it. You don't want people standing around failing reps. So I don't think you need to have a crazy number of muscle ups. I think what you can do is you could keep it on the smaller side per set and just say like, hey, if you're really good at muscle ups, you'll be able to go faster. It won't suck wind out of you like it would someone it's a really high effort movement for. I just think that would be probably the most responsible way to do it.
It's true. It does look good when you see people doing muscle ups.
Right.
You'd
rather see everyone do 3 to 4 at a time than have 6 people do 9 at a time and the other 6 doing 2, 3, 2, 1 fail, 2, you know.
And doing laps around.
I just think aesthetically, and I think Froning with his history with the games and the people that are broadcasting this, I think it would be on the lower side. Just you get a lot of trips back there. That's my thought. Now the other high level, there will be no handstand walks. There's no ring muscle ups unless they're lying to us. There's some toes to bar. Don't need to talk about those. The strict handstand push-ups. It's as is for men's age 35 to 39, and then as they get older, from 50 plus, they give a 1-inch rise, and then 60 plus, they get to kip with a 1-inch riser. With women, it also says it's as is 35 to 49. So they're redoing strict handstand push-ups. 50 to 59, they'll be kipping. And then 60 plus, they'll be kipping with 2-inch risers. So again, they are changing the movement for older age groups. They're allowing kipping for the older age groups. For us, we're both going to be doing strict. And this is another movement where you have very good athletes. I know several of them, Amy, Ryan Ratcliffe, several athletes in our gym where you have to do more than 2, 3, 4, 5, it's going to be an issue. And there will be athletes down there in the same position. And I'm very curious to see, you know, Mayhem programming is huge into strict handstand push-ups. It's one of the main programs I look at often. And their reps are all over the place. They do 2 at a time, they do 20 at a time. And I'm really curious. I have no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
How do you feel about them?
I mean, that's probably one of my biggest struggles is the strict handstand push-up. So I'm hoping it's something that I'm really good at in the beginning.
Right.
And then there's just some at the end.
Right.
So at least if I can't finish the workout, I can get there as if there's some type of a tiebreaker or something, like if they're assuming that not everyone's going to get through the handstand push-ups, that I can at least get some advantage.
Last year we had to do 15 kipping at a time. It was a short workout paired with sled pushes. 2 years ago, we had to do 25 at a time. That was paired with heavy deadlifts. I've never had to do strict handstand push-ups in Legends. And even in the qualifiers, it was always high volume kipping. So if they're trying to find that same stimulus, I would imagine the volume would be anywhere from 3 to 7 reps at a time. And I do think traditional CrossFit, which Froning has, in my opinion, you can tell he's read the CrossFit journals, and CrossFit.com programming has influenced him a lot. It's often paired with a heavy pull. So a barbell could be a power clean, which we have, a deadlift so something like a strict Diane with a heavy, like Diane, but with a heavy barbell and strict handstand push-ups. That's as aggressive as I would see. But again, the aesthetics of that would not be good.
Right.
Because so many people would get that 21 handstand push-up strict.
Stuck.
And you'd get to 7 and just do 1 at a time. And it just wouldn't be fun to watch. And so I think it could be some sort of maybe like an ascending ladder. Like I think if you want to really test handstand push-up capacity, but not make it a terrible thing to watch, is start off with really low volume, pair it with a heavy barbell, and just go, 1 and 1, 2 and 2, 3 and 3 for 7 minutes.
Oh, I see.
So that everyone kind of starts off moving, but then the ones that really shine in that kind of workout, minutes, the back half of the workout, they're still banging out everything unbroken. Mm-hmm. The ones that struggle, they get caught up, but you're not watching someone's fail for the entire time.
Yeah.
What do you think about standards? Because they've played around with standards with handstand push-ups so much, and I feel like the width of your hand makes such a big difference, especially with strict. Because if you're here, locking out versus here, I see people at the gym, they're like this wide, and they're like,
yeah.
And like,
okay. Well, it's
okay.
what we talked about in the last episode with Amy. People do that because it's shorter range of motion.
Right.
I mean, I've seen people like you. I know who you're talking about, Sam. The wide hands, they're literally barely bending the elbows. Where like someone with length, they're moving, their elbows moving an entire foot, or their head is moving an entire foot, from here to here. And how can you say that's a comparable movement? There's a sponsor that Joe Linton, who's one of the guys that runs Legends, and we use his mats here. I don't know how to, it's Urland mats, but whatever. They're 36 by 24.
Okay.
So they're 36 inches wide, 24 inches long off the wall. And me thinking that they're one of the sponsors of this comp that the guy runs will probably use those. And the reason the dimensions are, that's what the old school way of the CrossFit box or the handstand push-up was. Your hands can't be outside that, and they can't be that far off away. So basically, I think they're going to use those mats, and if your fingers go off it, it won't count. That's what they did for us last year. I get a little dicey with that. My fingers go, sometimes I could feel the edge of the mat, so I got to be a little careful with that. But it's easy to judge.
Yeah.
Handstand push-ups are very hard to judge. They always have been. That's why the Open changes them every single year. It's annoying. But it's basically, especially strict, keep your hands in that box, lock your elbows out, hit your head to the ground.
You won't see front facing, right?
I doubt it.
Okay.
I doubt it.
Got it.
So, but yeah, I mean, those are the high skill, high difficulty gymnastic movements. There's a rope climb in there. There are toes to bar, like I said. There's a wall walk. All right. So there's going to be a good amount of gymnastics in there. I don't think it's going to overtake any of the workouts. Like, I don't think you're going to have to do 21 strict handstand push-ups in a row, but I think it'll be just enough to say like, hey, if it is a hole in your game, it's going to probably hurt you a little bit. And if you're really good at them, it'll help you out in this workout.
No legless rope climbs.
What does it say?
It just says rope climb. They can throw a curveball.
I'd be surprised, although they did put in strict handstand push-ups, which I didn't think they would do for like Legends.
How do you feel about legless?
I don't know how I feel about legless.
I'm gonna jump as high as I can. She would be okay with them.
Yeah.
With one. I don't think they'd make her do more than one.
Yeah, I think it would be hard. There would be a lot of body momentum trying to get up there.
Yeah. Again, me doing some scouting on the Mayhem floor layout. They have their ropes right next to their big turf, unless they move them, of course. And that makes me think that turf is what you would want to use a sled on, and we do have the torque tank push into our pull again. So I think that would be something that would make sense to put it with. Logistically, spacing wise, it doesn't take a lot. You just have a straight line from your start back to the rope, and you get that thing out of the way so if you fall, you don't land on it. So I think you could see a pairing with like that, the sled with the rope, because of the layout of that gym. If I had to guess what the rope would be paired with, that would be it.
I think that would be fun.
What do you think about the torque tank? And I know you guys have been doing sled work, but what's the difference?
I've never used a torque tank.
It's nothing that you need to stress about. It's easier than a sled. The feel that I got out of it last year was if you try 70% effort to push the thing, it'll move just as fast as you trying 95%. So you kind of have to find and they'll have one in the warm-up area, and you push that thing 5 times, you'll know exactly what to do. It will never be to a point you can't move it. So I think no matter what it's paired with, the speed of the other movement will dictate how well you do. So there are different things you can do with like pushing it or putting your body into it. I don't think it makes that big of a difference. We paired it with handstand push-ups last year, and that workout was all about who could do their handstand push-ups the fastest. So
I feel like if we can push the sled out here
in
the summer,
if
it's sticking to the floor,
you won't have any problem with the wheels on.
We might be okay.
A couple other interesting movements that we've prepped that I think that This could be a make or break for some if they train them or not. We had the GHD in there. There's going to be a GHD.
Oh, Mayhem loves GHD.
Oh, Mayhem loves it.
Yeah.
If there's one, like I remember last year there was one event I'm like, that's effed up that they made us do that. It was the one with the squats, dumbbell squat snatch, the step overs. I think if there's a workout that is going to make it kind of like, wow, that's messed up that they're making us do that, it's going to be something with high volume GHD. Because I feel like at this point, everyone can do 10 to 15 GHDs at a time. Like, whatever, like not that fast at them, you're not that slow at them. But if they make you do 50 a couple of different times, like they did in the semifinals this year with the handstand walks, like that catches up to you.
And I don't even think so much during that workout. It's later.
Yes. Yeah. The soreness.
It's the next day.
Yeah.
Where your midline is going to be like,
yeah,
I'm done.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
that's going to be hard.
It's so hard. And high volume, how much volume would you anticipate them seeing? Because that's really where I feel like it'll mess you up is, like you said, high volume GHDs.
Yeah. Well, this is the one movement that popped in my head when Froning said, I think the volume's a little too much. Like I think anything above 100 for masters GHDs is a little too much, I would say, but I'll do it. I'm not criticizing at all. Like I think there's some things that you had to take a little risk on programming a big competition like this, but the GHD, it's not just total volume, it's how many you're doing in a row. Like I remember that year, the quarterfinals.
I was about to say 2 years ago
with the pistols and the rope climbs. Ooh. We had a lot of athletes doing 50, I think it was 60, then 50, and like they were dying.
I think some got rhabdo.
Yeah, I agree.
Literally. And I mean, in terms of high level athletes at our gym, I've seen you got messed up one year at the French throwdown doing GHDs. Yeah. And last year I popped something in my hip flexor and I was out for a month.
Yeah. You got to be careful with you got to not be reckless.
Yeah.
Like, but under control, it's fine.
Yes. It's hard. Like I remember when I got messed up, I rushed it. I flew myself back and it was a mistake. So I think that and the sandbag clean. We had that last year. We've trained it a lot. Amy's made a lot of progress with that thing over the past, I would say couple months. I'm really curious to see how they implement that.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
Because it can go in so many different directions.
You did that, but it was more of wasn't it like if you broke, you had to go do them?
So last year, that messed up workout was if you broke up 50 squats, like, how dare you, double front rows, 40 deadlifts, 30 squat snatches, 20 dumbbell step overs. If you broke up any of those, you had to go do a sandbag clean. So most of us did the whole thing unbroken, but then when you did
it unbroken.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And then at the end of the workout, you had to go do, I think it was 10 or 15 cleans.
At what weight?
It was 150.
Okay.
It was brutal.
Okay.
So, I mean, I hope they don't repeat that workout. That I would.
Do you think they will repeat
traumatized?
Yeah, like one workout like they do in the open or something?
I mean, they're certainly repeating things they've done in the qualifier
patterns.
As far as movements go.
Yeah, there's patterns. I think they're very into CrossFit. Like Dave Castro is big on. There are CrossFit game events that you can kind of tie back to previous stages. Like they kind of built it up a little bit, so like they have the dumbbell step up, which we did.
Yep. Snatches,
dumbbell snatches. Like, I definitely think they could probably throw an angle onto the wall ball.
Even wall walks. They have wall walks again.
Oh, they do?
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you think they program more than 100 pounds for women, 150 for men for the sandbag cleans?
I don't, just for logistic reasons, like if you're going to have my age group go up to 200 pounds and then Amy's age group, they're at 150, like you're just getting, like sandbags are tough to transport, to put together. It's a lot of work. Not saying that they can't handle it, but I do know these competitions are as much about logistics as they are, fitness tests. And, if you're going to go all the way up to 200, you're not going to have the older age groups do that, obviously. You're going to have to go all the way down to 50 or 75 pounds. So now you're just talking about, 100 sandbags.
Yeah, bazillion sandbags.
Right. So I think
if it's heavy, it's going to be slow, like you said. Like people aren't going to be rep cycling.
Yeah, if they want to make it tougher, I think they'll just add some volume. Like if they want the 35s to do the same weight as the 50s, they'll just, I think, make it a different volume. Like we'll do 15, they'll do 10 or something like that.
I'm saying these things in hopes.
Yeah, I know.
They won't do that.
Trying to speak into existence.
They won't do that.
Just a couple things left. They had the dumbbells involved. They have the dumbbells box step up, dumbbell snatch, dumbbell thruster, the barbell. They had the deadlift, the front squat, the power clean, shoulder to overhead. Pretty standard movements. Like I do think you're going to see a lot of kind of classic CrossFit programming with the event overall, and all those movements kind of fit into that. They can be paired with anything. I don't think there's much point in speculating. I think one thing we're trying to figure out is what will be the strength event.
Right.
Like if they're, last year we've done 1 rep max lifting the past couple years. We did a couple max lifts, in my opinion, last year, but that heavy thruster ladder. If I'm going through this list and I'm thinking about the layout of their gym, the true hey, your score is how much weight you lift event, I think will either be a deadlift ladder, which is a little dangerous for masters, or what we were thinking would be off a rack, like a front squat or a complex of front squat into shoulder to overhead.
I like that.
Like 3 squats, 1 jerk. How heavy can you go?
Yeah.
Something like that.
How have you guys been training for strength?
So I was going to say, Dave's been doing all my programming, which has really been fantastic. I wanted to put that out there, that how he programs and how he can kind of envision or, get a sense of what we may be doing. It's amazing. And even just the prep work and the weekends we've been doing have just been, I think, pretty spot on. And looking at this list, I'm like, got it right.
Yeah. We did a lot of it. Yeah, we did a lot of it.
Yeah.
Her strength training has been kind of coinciding a little bit with Bison, with just staying on top of the back squats, the deadlifts. I'm glad we tested our 2 rep deadlift last week, even though you screwed up the weight changes.
I mean, I don't know how
it was good for us to. We at least we both know what are we sitting around right now. We also got to test it at the quarterfinals, the CrossFit Total, so you have a general idea. But we've done a lot of, I call it urgent lifting, where it's all right, we are going to lift heavy for 5 reps, 4 reps, 3 reps, 2 reps, single, touch and go, whatever you want. But it's got to be pretty close back to back, and then take a 10-second rest and then go do it again. Kind of one of those where, like Amy said, she's not a great 1 rep max lifter, neither am I, but we can both hang in those 80% windows with people much stronger than us, because a lot of lifting in CrossFit sport is recovery. I'm not impressed by the people that can lift really heavy, but they need 2 minutes between attempts. That's just, it's not CrossFit to me. And I think I've heard Froning talk about that all the time, is that he doesn't like just a true 1 rep max day. So I don't think we're going to see something like that. They will test strength, but you don't need to test strength. They'll get more creative, in my opinion, than just saying hey guys, 10 minutes, go find your 1 rep max front squat. It's not that it's not impressive, and I'm probably biased because I don't want to see it, but they are big into, we don't care if you're strong unless you're strong when you're tired. And I think that's what we're going to see.
What kind of mock events have you guys been programming for yourselves? I know Dave, you always like testing sort of a mock type setup beforehand. And what have you guys been doing with that?
Yeah, we did that last weekend. And I think it's really important for athletes, if you can fit this into your schedule, to do this, that you try to clear out a 4-day weekend, because that's how long ours is. And you try to set up 2 events Thursday or 3, 2 or 3 events Thursday, 2 or 3 Friday, 2 or 3 Saturday, 2 or 3 Sunday. And it sounds like a lot, and it is. And you don't want to do it too close to the comp. We did it 3 weeks prior, and I feel good about that timeline, especially if you get sick right after, you can have a week to recover. It's important to not evaluate how good you did in the workout. We tried hard for sure, probably 90-95% effort, but it was important to go through that stress, that buildup. How are you going to warm up? How did you feel after standing around for 10 minutes, then starting? What did you no joke, what were your bathroom trips like? Anticipate, plan those, mental prep. But then the most important was when we pushed hard, how did you respond to getting really sore? We did that workout. Bison did one of the workouts with us. It was 1,000-meter row, 50 thrusters, 30 muscle ups. And that was brutal, especially my legs don't recover well. They never have. And the next day, you are sore.
Yeah.
And then we had to go do assault bike and sandbag cleans, and then wall balls and jumping. And you wake up, you're I can't do this. But then you start warming up, you start feeling better. You have good energy. Tracy McGee, who's competing, joined us for the weekend. And you start to feed off each other a little bit. All right, I am not the only one that, if I did that entire weekend by myself, and I think she feels the same way, you probably
see ya.
Yeah, probably either skip a session or sold it short a little bit.
Yeah.
But so that's the value of that weekend. It's just putting all this, and from the outside, it's oh guys, that looks like a little too much. And it is, but it's not for the sake of just training. It's how do you recover, and then how do you respond to it? Because in my opinion, these athletes that do well at these competitions, are the ones that do good days 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
They recover and they can get after it. Amy, what were your thoughts on that weekend?
I mean, I thought it was great prep. I think what I really tried to do is, again, mentally be in it.
Mm-hmm.
I had even like texted Dave before. I was like, this is my schedule for like Thursday. This is my schedule for Friday of like, I'm doing this and this and this at certain times in preparation for the workout, and like literally putting in eating at 7 a.m., eating this before the workout, and putting my recovery boots on post-workout, things like that. So I think for me, it was the workouts and getting through them, but also how am I going to prep myself to recover?
Yeah, the routine.
I didn't think about that,
routine.
but setting up your routine is going to be so important, because you'll say that at the comp, like, this is what I've done before, this is what I'm going to be doing now.
Yeah. And I want to be able to look back and like I saved what I had written down and be like, well, what did I do on Thursday when I had this similar workout that I did at Bison? You know, how did I prepare for that? And then like, how did I recover from that?
That's
great. So I like to have those sort of notes. And I write down every workout I do in my notebook. And I still reference it like old workouts, even before that wall ball qualifier one. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I don't know where I'm going to fail. But I had looked back, I think we had done the last chance qualifier for the games or something. It was like all the wall balls and the burpee box jump overs. Like, wait, like I did this. I did this before.
Right.
Like, this is so similar. And I remember looking through my notebook and being like, how I did it, I finished it. So I think that sort of thing helps with like the mental prep and being able to look back at my notes from that weekend and be like, I did this. Building. I did it.
Why have I not been doing this all my life? I just like, I'm now like, oh man, all right. Never too late to get started, I suppose.
No, it's not. It's not. I think, I learn new things every year from both my own experiences, but just listening to other people. Like, if you're not learning, you're not trying. Like, there's always things that you can kind of clean up and fix. And I think that was the point of that weekend, was to build some experience, but also confidence that you can get through it. And then, hey, I've been there before. Like, when you can go into a comp or an event or a weekend and say like, all right, I've kind of done this before. It helps. Like even something small, like, we fly out Tuesday, and so we won't be training that day, and we check in on Wednesday, but then we have all day to do nothing. So we are going to plan like a little hotel workout, like body weight, move, machines, dumbbells, whatever. So the week of our mock comp, I said, like, Tuesday is one of our big workout days, like no working out Tuesday, like stay home and stare at the window and hate life, because that's what we're going to be doing to kind of get your body on that clock. And then Wednesday, we're going to do some endurance stuff, get your body flowing, get your body moving, because that's what we're going to be doing down there. And I think when the comp comes, you're like, hey, I've done this before.
Right.
It really does help to know that, hey, I've done this, I've been here before.
Yeah. I even think like Wednesday night, and people are probably gonna be like, that's a little crazy. Like Wednesday night, I was like, all right, like this is when I would probably be sitting in my hotel room at night.
For sure.
I'm going to use my Theragun and my boots and stretch and
watch TV,
eat. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because then tomorrow I'm going to wake up and do a workout.
Right. Yep.
So,
that's huge.
Yeah.
Do you have a mental prep or something that you say you're going to do, like when you're in the holding area, right before a workout? Like, do you have a mantra? Is there something that you're sort of keeping in mind at that point? Or like, how are you sort of mentally sort of getting yourself into it like that?
I was going to say, I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Dave's pretty similar.
Yep.
Like,
antisocial.
I don't, and I'm not to be like rude or anything. Like, I don't want
it's not rude at all.
I don't like the chit chat. I don't like discussing, I think, strategy with people I don't know beforehand, that don't know me beforehand, because it just makes me even more nervous. Because I'm like, well, if they're doing that, are they going to have like an advantage? But I'm like, I don't know you. I don't know how you work out. I don't know what you do. So I honestly like to be in my own head and just be like, this is what I am here for. This is what I've trained for. And I'm going to do what I can do best and get through the rest.
To quote Kathleen Staunton, stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. 100%.
That's a big part of it. And I just like to keep telling myself, like, to trust your fitness. Like, a lot of like, oh, like, this past week being sick is not ideal. And like, maybe I won't feel great when I'm down there. Maybe my sleep won't be great. But I look back on the past 10 years and said, that's the 10 years has led up to this. Like, I've been training for this for 10 years, not a few months. And even if things have not been ideal over the past few months, past few weeks, past year, whatever, right? I have a lot of background, a lot of backing before that led me here. And I want to trust that. And the other thing that helps me is like everyone else is feeling it too. I keep telling
Right.
like these guys are, they might look good and like look comfortable. We're all nervous.
Right.
That should not be something like, oh, I'm the only one, or I feel like a fish out of water. No, that's why I love competing. It's just, it's me versus you. And it's like the one time of the year where I really kind of get to go into that really, we call it the dark place, right? Where it's, I'm not here to be your friend. I don't need to, we don't need to shake hands after. I'm here to beat you. You're here to beat me. And that's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think we can wrap it up with that. And again, the Legends Championship, it should be broadcast. We'll probably put that information out, on our personal social medias once we get those details. Last year, it was the Talking Elite Fitness YouTube channel with Sean Woodland, Bill Grunler. Those guys, I think, let Bob and Joe use their feed just to get it out there. So I'm assuming it'll be on along those lines as well now that Rich is involved, or maybe Front Mayhem has their own YouTube channel, probably. I don't know. I mean, maybe it'll be on ESPN with Froning. Maybe Froning's competing. Do you remember? This is a funny story. Just to end this, Amy sent me a text. I was driving, almost drove off the highway. She goes, Rich is competing at Legends. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, that's dirty, dude. Like, he programmed it. If that is Jim, you can't compete. That's like me competing in the Bison Ball. Like, I program and plan everything that I'm just going to hop in. It's not fair.
I texted it, and then literally it was like, bing, 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 bing. It was insane. So I was looking at his Instagram. He had put something on his stories about
competing in Legends.
Was it Rogue?
It was the Rogue Invitational Legends division.
And someone goes, "Will you be there?" And he goes, "I will be in Legends." And I'm like, "Oh." So he's not doing Rogue, but he's doing Legends. And I screenshotted it and I sent it. And I think Dan was on it too. And Dan was like, "All right, chill out, people." He's talking about the Legends division
and the Rogue Invitational.
In the Rogue Invitational.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm really sorry.
Yeah. So, yeah, Rich, you can wait till next year.
I would have paid money to see Dave look at that guy.
Yeah. No, and then he texted back. He goes, I almost turned the car around and went back to the gym and started training.
Yeah, that's a true story. All right. So with that, guys, thank you, Amy. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck, guys.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch you in action. You're fully prepared. I can't wait to see a lot. We have a lot of Legends athletes that listen to the podcast. They send me messages and comment sometimes, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys there. We'll talk to you after the comp's over. And good luck to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Herd Fit podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.